2024 NBA Finals are set. The Boston Celtics ran through the East, going 12-2 in the first 3 rounds. The Dallas Mavericks pulled off 3 straight upsets, going 12-5 in the West in their first 3 rounds. Now we have one best-of-7 series with the 2 best teams in the entire NBA facing off. But who are the 10 best players that'll be playing in this series? Number 10. PJ Washington. Let's be honest, PJ Washington is just a solid role player. He excels offensively and can finish well around the rim, whether in transition or when he's cutting to the basket. But where he helps this Mavericks team the most is his ability to hit the 3 ball. In the regular season, he only shot 32% from deep, but in the postseason, he has stepped up to the plate big time for this Mavs squad, shooting 36% from 3. He's not a superstar or a star at that, but players like PJ Washington are going to be players that can win or lose a playoff series like this one. Number 9. Daniel Gafford. The Mavs paint protection will be absolutely crucial in this series. It's up to pretty much Gafford and Lively on Dallas to main the paint, and Gafford excels in that role. Gafford's just been getting more impressive as the playoffs have gone on. The last series against the Timberwolves, he looked great, even when Lively went out with, I believe it was a neck sprain or something like that. Gafford has stepped up to the plate big time for this Mavs squad, and they're gonna need him in the finals. He has 1.8 blocks per game in his 17 playoff games this season, with a block in every game of the Mavs' last 2 series, which was a total of 9 games. Another part of Gafford's game that's been absolutely great is when he's catching lobs from Luka. Let's be honest, it's Daniel Gafford. He doesn't have much of an offensive game, but when you play alongside Luka Doncic, Luka will make Gafford look like prime Blake Griffin at times. Okay, that's a stretch, but you know what I'm saying. Luka's ability to find Gafford on the roll or in the dunker spot for lobs or dump off passes, especially when the defense isn't playing drop coverage, will prove to be vital for this Mavs team. Okay, now it feels like I'm talking more about Luka than I am about Gafford and Gafford's own ranking, but seriously, Gafford's offense is created solely by Luka Doncic. Number 8. Derek Lively. Lively is going to be the only rookie to play minutes in this year's NBA Finals. Derek Lively has been so important for this Mavs team, and putting him at 8 kind of feels wrong. I want to put him higher, but there's just so many good players that will be playing in this year's NBA Finals, especially on the Boston Celtics, which, by the way, we still haven't named a single player from the Celtics, and they have a loaded roster. Lively is very similar to the number 9 player in Daniel Gafford, but their game is slightly different. I'd say Lively excels more than Gafford in the Mavs offense, catching lobs and receiving passes down low from Luka Doncic. He's a little bit more of an offensive game. What also makes Lively better than Gafford is his ability to rebound. Gafford's never been known to be some great rebounder, and he's also 3 inches shorter than Derek Lively. At 7'1", Lively's going to play vital minutes at the center position for this Mavericks team that needs a paint presence when Gafford is on the bench. Defensively, you could argue that Derek Lively is better than Daniel Gafford, although I wouldn't do that. I would side with Daniel Gafford on that argument. Lively's still great defensively, especially for a player in his first NBA season. I mean, seriously, that's impressive. I can't stress that enough, man. He is a rookie, and he is the 8th best player on my rankings that'll be playing in this year's NBA Finals. That's just crazy. And if the Mavs want to win the NBA Finals, as crazy as it may seem, they need Derek Lively to be out on the floor a lot and playing well. Number 7, Drew Holiday. Drew's postseason has been up and down. Starting off with a weak first round against the Miami Heat, where he only averaged 7 points per game. He then had a mid-second round against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he averaged 13 points per game. And in the 3rd round, aka the Eastern Conference Finals, he had his best series by far, averaging 18 points per game. Points per game doesn't completely determine how good of a series a player had, but you can see his offensive impact increase as the playoffs have gone on. And I haven't even mentioned how impactful he was defensively in the Eastern Conference Finals. He had countless plays at the end of games in that series, whether he was absolutely hounding Halliburton on defense or putting the clamps on Nembhard. Holiday has proven to be one of the best defenders in the NBA over the last decade, and I don't think that'll change in the NBA Finals. I expect Holiday to get the Kyrie matchup for the majority of the time that he's out there on the floor, but with the Celtics' defensive versatility, it wouldn't be surprising at all to see his matchup change as the game goes on. He'll definitely also spend time guarding Luka Doncic. With just how talented the Celtics are defensively, I think their matchups will be changing up a lot. They're definitely going to throw different coverages at this Dallas Mavericks team, not going to want to keep the same look out there for, you know, more than a few minutes or a quarter at a time. Drew shot 43% from 3 in the regular season and 40% from 3 in the playoffs. He's a great 3-point shooter and an above average facilitator, and of course a defensive player of the year caliber defender. Drew is a leader in the Celtics locker room and provides them a slight veteran presence. He will have to play his role very well if the Celtics want to win this series. Number 6, Derek White. Let's just be honest. he is the glue guy for this Boston Celtics squad. After a mid-start to his career in San Antonio, Boston picked him up and he's improved every year since the acquisition. Derek White and Jrue Holiday play a very similar role for the Celtics team, and it's very debatable who should be ranked higher in this video. If you want to go with Holiday over White, I wouldn't be mad at all. But there's just something about Derek White that makes him feel more important for this Celtics team. Jrue Holiday obviously has the better track record over the last pretty much decade or just few years in the NBA even. But this season, Derek White, it's just been proven when he's out there on the floor, when he's healthy for this Celtics team, it's hard for them to lose, especially down the stretch in games when this is a team that has stars like Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, even Kristaps Porzingis. There's a lot of times where Derek White is the guy that is facilitating the offense or even taking the big shots at the end of games. This season, he's easily become one of the best guard defenders in the entire NBA. Last year, he was all NBA defensive second team, same with this year. But this really felt like the Derek White breakout year. And I'm not saying he's a star, but it really does feel like he is for this Celtics team. Like I said before, White comes up huge, hitting big threes when the Celtics need them the most. He somehow feels like one of the more clutch players on this star-studded Celtics roster. He's always calm and more than likely making the correct high IQ plays. And in the regular season, Derek White shot 40% from three, and in the playoffs, he's shooting 41%, a slight increase. It is really hard to tell for sure what matchups Celtics are going to prefer because of their versatility with numerous elite level defenders, but Derek White will definitely have some of the toughest assignments of his life in this series. I'm just gonna say it now. It feels like there will be one game in the NBA Finals where Derek White comes up absolutely big time for the Celtics and they win a game with Derek White heroics down the stretch. Number 5. Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps' health is quite possibly the biggest factor in the entire NBA Finals. If Porzingis can play a full 7-game series at 100% health, it will be nearly impossible for the Celtics to lose this series. With how versatile they are 1 through 4, Porzingis at the 5 gives them the ability to spread the floor to perfection, and that's a huge reason as to why the Celtics led the entire NBA in three-point shooting this season. They're gonna shoot a ton of threes, and Kristaps shoots 5 per game. His backup is, of course, Al Horford, who also shoots threes at a high clip, but what Al Horford lacks is the rim protection that Porzingis has. Porzingis is one of the best rim protectors in the game given his length, but once again I'm circling back to the big question of the day, which is of course Porzingis' health. Will he be able to make it through a 7-game series after not playing in a game in over a month? I doubt it, but time will tell. Number 4. Jaylen Brown. I know. This ranking may surprise a lot of you guys. I already know the comments are going to be on my head for having JB at 4, but that's just how top heavy the talent is in the NBA Finals. There's multiple stars or even superstars on both of these teams. And Jaylen Brown is one of, if not the best 3-and-D players in the entire NBA. And I'm not saying he's only a 3-and-D guy. Obviously, he can score off the dribble. He can do a lot of other things. I'm just saying he's a great shooter and also an excellent defender. Those types of players are kind of hard to find in today's NBA. Defensively, Brown gives the Celtics insane versatility and the ability to change matchups on the fly. Brown playing alongside Jrue Holiday and Derek White is just insane. And again, having him at 4 might be crazy because Jaylen Brown could easily be the most important player in this series, especially with his ability to just take over games like we saw in the Pacers series. He could very possibly end up being Finals MVP. He was just the Eastern Conference MVP, and that's in large part because he hit a huge game winner essentially in game 1 and went for 40 points in game 2. You can't put Brown any lower in the ranking. You're not going to put Porzingis or Derek White over him, but my question to you guys is how much higher would you put him? Number 3. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving just barely cracks my top 3 players in the NBA Finals ranking after a masterful series against the Timberwolves. I'm going to be completely honest. I was torn whether to put Jaylen Brown or Kyrie Irving in this 4th spot, but Kyrie Irving has just had some of the most insane clutch moments I've seen ever this year. He just proves to be clutch time and time again. After he saved LeBron in the 2016 NBA Finals to beat the Warriors, he's right back here, this time taking on his former team, the Boston Celtics. Kyrie shot 41% from 3 in the regular season, and in the playoffs, he's turned it up a notch, shooting 42% from deep. The only team in the entire NBA that has a chance of guarding Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving at the same time is the Boston Celtics. Luka Doncic is a problem by himself, but then you have Kyrie Irving on the other side of the court, who's the best dribbler of all time, one of the most clutch players of all time, and just an elite shot creator and shot maker. Speaking more on why I have Kyrie over Jaylen Brown, it just comes down to his clutchness. And again, I know Jaylen Brown is clutch. He's probably one of, if not the most clutch players on the entire Celtics roster. But I trust Kyrie just a little bit more, and I know if you want to compare them fully, Jaylen Brown is of course a better defender, but it just comes down to Kyrie being a little bit more clutch. And I know all or most of these final games are going to be close, and there are going to be a lot of clutch moments. So that is the sole reason why I have Kyrie Irving at 3 above Jaylen Brown. Kyrie will have at least one game in the NBA Finals where he makes astronomically big plays in crunch time, more than likely willing his team to a win. Number 2, Jayson Tatum. Tatum is at number 2 in my rankings, but he could easily be at number 3 or 4. There's a rare chance where Tatum ascends his game to an unbelievable level and is the number 1 player in this series, but I kind of doubt it. The reason that I have Tatum at number 2 above players like Kyrie Irving and Jaylen Brown is simply because he has the whole package. When he's having an off night scoring, he's impacting the game in a ton of other ways. He's always on the glass, getting almost 10 boards a night. He plays elite level defense and can guard almost anyone 1 through 5, excluding a few centers. He can also facilitate the offense at a high level, and he's just simply the leader and number 1 option on this team. There's many times though where I say to myself that Jaylen Brown is better than Tatum, and I'm sure there'll be moments like that in the NBA Finals. But overall, I had to put Tatum over JB and even Kyrie, just because Kyrie doesn't impact the game much defensively or in too many other ways when he's not scoring. And I'm really interested to see if Tatum could take that jump that everybody's been waiting for and absolutely dominate in the NBA Finals. But I'm just not sure we will see that. I'm expecting a series where Tatum averages 27 or 28 points per game with 5 assists and like 9 boards per game. Unfortunately for Tatum and everyone else in this ranking for the Boston Celtics, there's a guy on the other team that is for sure going to be the best player in this series. Number 1, Luka Doncic. He's just insane. I could really just leave it at that. Luka Doncic has the it factor that very few players in NBA history have ever had. He has the ability to take over any game whenever he wants to. The Mavs have now upset 3 teams in a row in this year's playoffs, starting with the Clippers in round 1, then the OKC Thunder in round 2, and then Timberwolves in the conference finals, and they've done it with a banged up Luka. Lucky for Mavs fans, Luka will have a week off to get closer to 100% health, although he was arguably close to 100% health by the end of the Western Conference Finals. The more rest, the better. Defensively, Luka has some question marks, but what he does offensively, arguably no one in NBA history has been able to replicate. Luka's ability to pick apart a defense is reminiscent of Tom Brady on the Patriots. There's really nothing you can do to stop him. You essentially just have to double him and hope that his teammates miss off the wide open catch and shoot. He can score at all levels efficiently, and it'll be interesting to see what the Celtics send at him defensively. I expect Luka to average a 35-point triple-double in the NBA Finals. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I'm serious. He is just that good, and I think he's going to turn it up a notch in the NBA Finals. And maybe I just have high hopes for Luka and I'm expecting too much, but to me this feels like a passing of the torch moment from one generation to the next. This is possibly the moment we leave players like LeBron, Curry, and KD in the past and bring out a new generation of talent led by Luka Doncic. It also feels like a passing of the torch moment as Jokic hands Doncic the torch and he becomes the best player in the NBA. The only problem with this is that Luka and the Mavs are going up against by far the best team in the NBA this year so far in the Boston Celtics. I think Luka's skill set makes him the best player in this series, win or lose.